Okay, so it's 3:30 on a Saturday. I have a 5:30 coming in later today to look at a wall bed. So the first thing that you need to understand is that you need to take control of the customer. So if they're walking around and you're not doing that, then you're really set up in a bad spot, because the other person needs to understand that a few things. One is that our wall beds are all in extremely high quality. I'm going to cut in and out of the video, but they need to understand that the only difference really between the bed is size, shape, dimension, and color, right? Which you could defer that to later. Hey, you could pick the color at the end, but these are all the same. So what do I start out with? Customer comes in, I say, first thing I do is if I don't have it already, I pre-sell, whether it's a walk-in or whether it's an appointment or whatever. I pre-sell, so I say, oh yeah, how are you? Have you been on our website? And they'd say, yeah, and they'll say anything from, yeah, well, we're just looking to get a Murphy bed, or we're not sure, to, you know what, we really like the Dublin, or we really like the Euro. The point is, it doesn't matter. So you say, okay, great, well, let me show you our beds, and I first talk about our beds in general, which is, the first part is, and this is true with the Dublin, but most of the beds are like the Dublin, they all come down in the same way, and I say, the handle's right here and right here, you can pull it down, and I'll have the customer pull it down, and I show them that it comes out like this, and then drops on its own, which is a pretty phenomenal product, right? And then I talk about, so this is the Dublin, and if you're in San Mateo, I mean, it's the Euro or the Dublin or the Sonoma, I mean, it doesn't matter, but the point is, okay, so, and the next thing I talk about is all of these beds come in the same size, the same length, the same width, the same depth, the same height. They all can come with any of the piers or desks that you see, and they all come with that, well, most of them from the manufacturer Westcott come down like the Dublin just did. The only difference between the Dublin, and I'm going to go over to the Euro, the only difference between the Dublin and the Euro is that the Euro is a smoother style. You don't need the desk, you don't need the all that stuff, although we'll talk about that. But, and I say John and Mary, because John and Mary, like it's a couple, but I'll say, John and Mary, do you prefer a more contemporary style, like the Dublin, where it has a lot of grain, or do you prefer a more modern style? And they'll tell you, right? And so they'll say, well, we have we have a home up by Yosemite, and it's kind of it's an older made home, and we really would prefer something like this. And I'll say, that's great. And do you know your measurements? And what I do is I look. So now I've sold them on the idea of getting this type of a thing, right? And now I say, and I said this before when I'm pulling down the bed, I go over all the features and benefits of wall beds and more. We use real wood, and I have them touch it. I have them touch the real wood. I say, all right, so, and this should have been edited out to show before, but they say they like a contemporary. I says, okay, well, let me tell you a little bit about what we do. We use all real wood, okay? I was in a hotel room yesterday, and they used a bunch of stuff, and it looks kind of nice from far away, but it's particle board, and you can shake it and move it, and it feels like it's coming apart, right? This is all real wood, okay? Lifetime warranty on the springs, the pistons, and the hardware. So basically what that means is that the bed will work for the duration of the time that you own it, and regardless of whether you move or not. Another reason that people like to buy from us is the fact that we are here for you. We will help you move if you need to move. As a local business, we're here for you. But even if something does go wrong, and the reality is that most of our customers, nothing goes wrong. But there's a small percentage that do, and that's why we're not Wayfair, we're not Costco, and this is a long-term investment. It is an investment, okay? And then I say, and one of my favorite things to tell people is that the bitterness of poor quality lingers long after the sweetness of a low price is forgotten. So you buy cheap, it's not going to last. And I don't say it like that. I feel out the customer and everything, but I'm just telling you the benefits and features of wall beds and more. So I get them to touch the wood. I kind of step back a little bit because I want them to kind of really have a chance to soak it all in and to really admire it. So I take a step back and they feel the wood and they go, wow, that's pretty nice. And I say, it really is. And then I say, so this wood is the same quality, it's the same type of wood, it's birch wood, whether you go with this one right here or that one, which is a more simple style. Do you prefer, and I say it very casually, just very like nonchalant, like, you know, do you prefer a more modern or contemporary style? And a lot of times they'll say modern, or they'll say contemporary, or they'll say they're not sure, they want to look at it. And then I'll show them the difference in grain. And I'll say, look, this has a ton of grain, the one over there has very little grain with the Euro. And then I'll I'll say, okay, and do you guys have, is this for a main room, is this for a guest room? It's so important to know exactly, it's so important to know why. Why are they getting a wall bed? That's so important because if you understand why they're getting a wall bed, then when you get into close, you'll have an idea of how to sell them and what to sell them on and how to close them on it. Just like the guy that gave me the Purple Heart. You know, he gave me the Purple Heart because I listened to him and what he was looking to do. I clarified and I got the answer, the information I need. So that's so important that you know why they're buying a wall bed. And I ask, is this for a guest room? Is this for a main room? And what kind of things are you looking to do when you are there, you know, when the bed's up? And they'll say, well, we want to work out and we want to do this and that. And I say, that's great. Sounds like you really need a wall bed. And they'll say, yeah, we do. And then I get into talking about, they say they want the contemporary style or the modern style. If they want contemporary, I go with that. If they want modern, I go with a Dublin or a Yellowstone if they want contemporary, which are priced similarly. If they want modern, here's what you need to try to do. Get them to do the Sonoma after you know their budget. Here's why. Because you don't want to get into a situation where somebody says, hey, what's this? And you're like, oh, it's $36.99, and you try to build a quote. And then they go and look at the Sonoma, and it's $29.99. And then they're like, well, wait, why did you, if there's not much of a difference, and I don't need that, then what are you just trying to hustle me for $500 or $700? Right? So that's the point that I'm getting at here. And then once I know the dimensions and what kind of colored style they're looking for, do they need a mattress or do they have a mattress? If they say they don't need a mattress, that's fine, then that's end of conversation. If they have a mattress, or if they need a mattress, then I say, okay, great, well, we have some great mattresses, and I'll show you that later. So then you just defer that to later because you want them to fall in love with the idea of the wall bed. And then you can either sell them a mattress or don't. Either way is fine. Once I get that, I go to budget. So I say, okay, and just a ballpark, but what kind of budget do you have? I had somebody earlier on the phone who says, well, the guy who's coming in at 5:30, he says, well, we don't have a budget. I says, okay, so I want to let you know what our wall beds cost. I have base model wall beds for $3,000, $29.99. I have more complex wall beds and some of our more popular wall beds for closer to $5,000. I don't care what you buy, but are you comfortable in that price range? Are you comfortable in that price range? And the person will usually tell you. And And not only will they tell you, like in terms of their body language, but they'll sometimes they'll just tell you straight up, yeah, no, that's fine, or that's what we were expecting. And I love to hear that if somebody says that's what we're expecting, because like with the one I just sold, I had a guy and he was expecting that kind of a price of $3,000. It's what he was expecting, but he wasn't expecting the quality of wall beds and more. So if they're expecting our price and they're not expecting our quality, then we're in we're in great shape, and that's what we want. We want them to, like I had a guy that came in the other day who said, who he was going to fix the computers, and he saw the hidden bed, and he goes, what do these cost, like $8,000? I said, no, they don't cost $8,000. But you need to get people thinking that way. Okay, they really need to think that way. So, anyways, so then I'll say something along the lines of, okay, so we can fit this in your budget, and then I'll show them the colors, and these are the different colors, and they're right here. So they're right here, and the colors are all on that hidden bed over there in the corner, right? And so I'll bring them out. These colors right here, they go with Westcott. These colors go with Westcott right here. These are Westcott. So all these colors, and they're more simple colors, they go with any bed that's Westcott. That's the Dublin, the Euro, the San Mateo, pretty much a lot of the Barrington, a lot of the ones in San Mateo, the Sonoma, the Arlington, the Dublin, what other ones are Westcott, the Glen Ellen, which is another wonderful one I sold about a week ago, was a quick ship, wonderful lady. And so you start with these. If it's a Westcott, this is birch. Birch wood, birch. If it's ODC, alder and oak. Alder is the more simple grain, oak is the more, has more texture to it. Now when you take a look at it, you can easily tell. So what I do, so I try to do everything, and the customer obviously will try to take you kind of off of tangents, and you have to just kind of answer the question and then just go back to what you were doing. And one of my weaknesses as a salesperson is I get sidetracked, but you have to think of this in steps. Of they think about, is this bed going to fit? Do I need the bed? Do I want the bed? Is this the product quality that I want? And then is the price something that I can fit? So you don't want to you want to do the steps in order. You don't want to get to price. I mean, if somebody asks you prices, I give price ranges, but I try not to give exact pricing until I get into close. But, so the last part of it is they've agreed they want the Dublin or the contemporary style. They love the wood. They like me. They like wall beds and more. They know they need a wall bed. And there's not a lot you can do to convince somebody they need a wall bed. I mean, if they didn't need a wall bed, then, I mean, why would you be here, right? Obviously, you need a wall bed. But, so they're convinced on the color, and I have them pick the color, and if they try to say, well, you know, we're not ready, or we're not, you know, we're not going to buy today, or, you know, they say that, well, we're still looking, or whatever they say, I still have them pick the color, because I want them to buy, but more importantly, even if they don't buy today, I want them to be like, well, we really should do this, you know. And so I want them to walk out of there with that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling of like, yeah, you know, I'm not buying, but I really, man, this stuff is really impressive. We really should do this. So I will show them the colors. And I'll say, if they don't, anytime somebody doesn't answer a question like color or budget, I say, well, that's fine, and I agree with them, and I say that's totally fine. But I mean, if you were to do this, or I mean, what's your favorite color? And I kind of joke with them, like, you know, I'm like, you know, I mean, when I was a little kid, everybody asked me my favorite color, and you don't know your favorite color, and I smile and joke with them, but that depends on the right person. So you have them pick the color. You have them agree which style they want. You've seen their measurements, so you know they can fit it. And honestly, and fit is one of those objections that is not really, it's not a real objection, it's a bullshit objection. And the reason it's a bullshit objection is because, okay, guys, look. And I'll tell people, I'll say at the beginning, towards the beginning, I'll say something along the lines of what are your measurements? And they'll say, oh, I have 10 by 11, and I would ask, which wall would you put the bed on? And then if they're not sure, I would say, well, and one thing that's also great too is, everything comes in and we assemble it and install it on the spot. So you don't have to, you don't have to tell, you can order it and you don't have to tell me today. It's up to you. And you don't have to tell me, when you do order it. And I also point that out. But space, budget, time frame, price, and and fit. Those are all, and then do they want to buy it? Do they believe in us and our company and our product and all that stuff? So after they've already agreed on this style or whatever bed it is that they're going to choose, I always try to isolate. So if somebody says, oh, we could do this over here, I'll say something along the lines of, but I thought you said that you wanted a contemporary style, or whatever point that they brought up, I'll try to use to steer them back to the original bed that we thought of. And the reason I do that is because I don't want them walking out of the door, although this sometimes happens, but usually it doesn't. I don't want them walking out of the door and even whether they buy or not knowing which bed that they want. Okay, because that's a whole nother animal. So I will steer, and again, one thing that I have to emphasize is you never want to get into close until close. And what I mean by that is if somebody says something like, well, I like this one, but I also like this one, right? So you never want to say, well, I can give you a way better deal on that one, but okay, you never do that, because you need to close them on the idea of a bed before you get into close. Because if you get into close before you write the quote and you build everything, then they're just like, oh, I don't know, and then they put their walls up before you're ready to even buy. So I always like to my rule is generally, if somebody's not ready to buy, I don't close. I don't close on the order until I know there's a chance that they might do it, because I'll just keep bullshitting with them, keep going through it's like running on a treadmill. You just got to keep running, and you just got to keep going through the questions and keep keep asking more questions. Like if somebody isn't sure, they think they're not sure it would fit, or they say that, you'd say, well, you said it's enough. Do you have windows? Or you ask, another thing I use for space is, do you have some stuff on the one side of the wall or the other, or do you have to move anything? And one of the biggest things in this business is, more than overcoming objections, is finding objections. Because Eric and Kathy have so many resources that they use to be able to overcome objections. So an example is, I had somebody who wasn't sure if he was ready to buy because he had a queen size bed in his house, like not a wall bed, just a bed. And his objection was, and I kid you not, and you'll get some really stupid objections. His objection was, well, I don't know how I'm going to move it. Okay, so I told him, I said, I don't know if we could help you, but assuming that if we could, let's say that I could give you my bed and the same price, and we could get it hauled out of there at no cost, could you buy? And I never say like, would you buy? Like I'm pressuring them. I would just say like, could you buy right now? And then the guy said, well, yeah. And the wife looked at him. The wife looked at him like, yeah, we can. And I always love when I say something, and then the husband and the wife kind of look at each other, and that look, and you can and you can tell the look when the two people look at each other, because I mean they've been married for a long time, so obviously when you're in a long-term relationship, the two of you just kind of have that sort of chemistry where you don't have to talk about it. You can just look at each other and know. So I always love when when I say something like that, and you always shut up. So this is the last part of close, because I've already closed them on the product. I've already given them a general price range, and I've taught you how to inflate the price and then bring it down. So I give them a general price range. I've closed them on the space. They've agreed they have the space for it. They've agreed that it's within their ballpark budget. And I always like to start with that because that will allow me to get into close. So for an example, as you're having the conversation with somebody says, okay, well, what's the price of this? Which you're going to have. Well, I have to take a look at it, but it's about close to $4,000. It's about $4,000, right? It's $36.99. It's $36.99, but what we need to do is answer the question. It's about $4,000, and then as you're showing them beds, read them and read how they look when you say it's about $4,000. Do they look shocked? They're like, oh yeah, okay, that's what I was expecting. And the reality is the reactions that you're going to get are completely varied. Completely varied, because some people you're going to say 4,000 and they're fucking rich and they see the quality and they appreciate wood, and especially that guy the other day who bought 3 wall beds from us already. He already knew what kind of price he was looking at, not exactly, but within $500 of what kind of price he's looking at. So you'll get all kinds of reactions. Now, if you said price over the phone or price when you first walked in, that's normal. You're not doing anything wrong. If you said price after you've sold them on all the benefits of wall beds and more, then you're not doing your job, because when you sell them on real wood and a lifetime warranty and a business that takes care of people. Eric and Kathy we've gone out to people's houses and fixed their problems. We're here, okay? And we fix people's problems. Kathy and Eric literally had some dumb customer 3 years ago, and I tell this story about how, there was this idiot who bought from us and then called us and had the gall to be like, oh, can you buy our bed back? We don't like it. And Eric was like, well, is there something wrong with it? He's like, no, we just don't like it. Well, that's not our fault, right? I don't remember what we did, but we did something for him. We actually came out to his house. You are not going to get that on Costco and Wayfair. You're not going to get that online. And that's just the reality of it. And so when you do a good job selling the company, selling the wood, selling the warranty, selling that we're always here, that I'm here, that I'm a Purple Heart winning sales professional who is our company's been, our manufacturer's been around 30 years, and they're going to be around another 30 years. And our company's been around 11. And with Eric and Kathy and their leadership, and particularly her leadership, because Eric has been in the business for a year to 2, which is fine, that's not a knock on him, but she's around for a reason, because she owned the store before and she's done a good job taking care of it. When they believe all of that stuff, then that $4,000 price, hopefully, you've done such a great job that they say this is worth every penny. And worst case scenario, they see the $4,000 price and they're like, oh, okay, well, that's maybe a little more than we were thinking, but it's still, look at this. We can do this. And I've had a couple, especially older couples, who have a 24-hour rule where they just, everything, no matter what, they always say, I want to think about it, no matter how great it could be, God's gift to the world, and they'll still think about it. And that's totally understandable. I've had couples that do that and come back a day later and say, who am I kidding? And they buy. I had this wonderful couple named Tom and Kay who did that exactly what I'm talking about. They bought a Barrington table bed in white, and I gave them a phenomenal deal. And so the point is, when they ask that question, you hit them with a price. If they go, oh shit, that's a lot, and they have sticker shock, then you didn't do your job. And either you didn't do your job or you told them everything, but you didn't do it in a way that made sure that they listened. And one thing I like to do when I'm emphasizing each part, I kind of check in with people and I say, okay, so does that make sense? And then I tell people, I'll say, you know what, we're not like Costco or Wayfair, and we're not priced like them. Or I'll say, you know what, we are not the cheapest, we're the best. And when you buy the best, I mean, there's a price to it. And sometimes I like doing that because at first it kind of scares them, like, oh my God, this is going to be really, really expensive. So they're thinking it's going to cost $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 or $10,000, and that's exactly what you want. Because then when you get into clothes and it's only $3,000, they're like, oh. They may have even brushed you off because they thought you were going to try to sell them something really expensive, and it's only $3,000. So, anyways, so when I get into clothes, I'll say something along the lines of, they'll say it's $4,000. I'll say, okay, let me ask you this. Other than the money, other than that, and I don't know what the money looks like. You said you're comfortable in that $3,000 to $6,000 price range, 3 to 5. So I assume that you're okay with 4, and that's somewhat in what you're willing to spend. Is that fair to say? And I'll just be quiet. And a lot of times they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, okay, great. And if they say anything, like if they say they want to think about it, or they say that, whatever they say, it doesn't matter. We need to call a measure. We need to talk to our cat. The reality is it doesn't matter what the fuck they say. If they say anything like that, you never argue with the objection on the spot, okay? And I saw you do that a couple of times yesterday. We kind of bought back that last deal, although it was a tough one to get and it may not have worked out. My strategy was not to say, hey, buy the bed, was to get her qualified and see how much she can qualify for with Synchrony, and then say, all right, can we click this and can we do this? Then I kind of bought back the deal too, because I said, oh yeah, I know you'll have the cash, and she was like, I don't want that and this and that, so I talked too much and I bought back the deal. But anytime you ask a question like that, you always just shut up. You say, I mean, $4,000, I mean, again, I don't know what the discounts or the promos are going to be, and the installation, the tax and all that, so I mean, give or take. But in that kind of price range, is that something you're comfortable with? And they will say no, or they'll say yeah. And if they say no, you say, okay, well, if I finance that 36 months and made it really low payment, would you consider that even more, or would that change it? I wouldn't say like, would you consider that, because sometimes they may take it as like, well, yeah, we'll consider it. We'll go home and just, jerk ourselves off and consider it. But I'm talking about, when I say, will you consider it, I mean like, will you consider it, right? And so there's an inflection and a tone in your voice that you need to use in order to convey that message. So you need to be like, would you consider it? Like, is this something, like, will you seriously consider it? Right? So that way you can get them on payments. Now the reality is there's a certain, and you'll learn to feel this out, but there's a certain type of buyer that's a payment buyer. There's just a lot of buyers who are just, and they'll tell you, or if you tell them about payments, like if I have somebody who balks at the price and on the phone while they're doing a web quote or whatever it is, a virtual appointment, and then they balk at the price and they say, oh, well, I'm a little concerned about the price, and then you mention financing, and then all of a sudden they book an appointment into your showroom like we did with Ray, that's really good. That's a payment buyer. Now you know how they buy, so they're a payment buyer. A lot of people are not payment buyers. A lot of people will just say, you know what, and especially some of the older people will just say, you know what, if we can't afford the price, we don't do payments. Which is stupid logic when you have 0% financing, because really, if you buy cheap, you're going to have to pay more later. So whatever interest you think you're paying, which mine has no interest, you're paying interest by buying the cheaper bed, right? So you isolate them down to the money, and when they say, yeah, $4,000 is decent, yeah, we could possibly do that depending on, they'll probably say, depending on, is it 45, is it 42, is it 43? I mean, so when they say something like that, or if they just say, yeah, it's possible, now you know it's not the money, it's not the product, it's not the quality. They don't need to go home and measure, and even if they said that too, you looped around it and figured out a way to convince them that they don't need to go home and measure. And the reality is sometimes you have to, when people say bullshit, you have to call them out on their bullshit. And I don't mean do it in a nice way. Don't do it in a mean way. Do it in a very nice way, but just say, if someone says, well, we need to measure. Okay, well, and they already said they don't have any windows. Well, you said your wall was 110 inches. That's from here to here. And you said this wall is 110 inches, so that's here to here. So I guess I'm a little confused. What is it that's in your room that's stopping you from putting this wall bed in? And a lot of times they will tell you. And sometimes it'll be something that you have no control over. And other times it's something that you do have control over. An example. Early on, if somebody says something like that, they may say, well, we need to go measure, but we also have this other piece of furniture and this other piece of furniture, and we're not sure about the color. And so when someone says that, that's how you gain that information. So you say, okay, one of the things I like to do is to offer people white. I offer white because white goes with white. What kind of furniture do you have? Oh, wow, that's crazy. And I've literally had people say, oh, wow, that's crazy. You read my mind. I was thinking of white too. I have white. Everything's white. I'm white. You're white. The desks are white. Everything's white. Right? So the point is, you have to get through all those things before you get to close. If you don't, then that's really bad, because now they're going to go home and think about it, and anytime they do that, you lost a sale, there's very few circumstances. Like if you have an older couple that's just like, yeah, well, we need to think about it because we don't purchase on the first day. That's fine. Just mark your calendar for 2 more days and buy it. That's not a big deal. And there are some people where you don't want to pressure them at all. You just say, okay, we'll definitely think about it. Give us a call. How long do you think you need to think about it? And then if they say 2 days, to say something like, hey, listen, I know you're not going to buy, and I want you to think about it. Please think about it. But can I just ask you, what kind of concerns do you still have? And you'll find out so much. And then that's what you're going to use as the fuel and the ammunition for your follow-up. Fuel and ammunition for your follow-up. And if you haven't shot your best price, if you haven't walked out the door with your best price, which I always try to do, and I'm always prideful, I'm always giving my best price before they leave. I'm always about today. Now, if there's if you have somebody that hasn't moved into their home, or if they're not even in their home, or they haven't even bought the clothes on their home, well, that's a little tougher. Like I sold one this morning he hadn't moved into his home, but he closed on it, he knows the address of it, he's been in it, I'm sure, and I sold him. But sometimes people are thinking, and we don't discuss it with them, but people are thinking, wait, why am I going to buy this? How am I going to buy this now? Is Wallbeds and More going to, in 12 weeks, call me and say, hey, we need to ship you your wall bed, and I'm not ready? Right? So why hasn't that been addressed? So that's something else you need to talk about when you get into clothes and you say, listen, these are made to order, and I tell people, listen, so I'm going to build you a quote, and I'll tell people, I'm going to show you a tremendous discount if you can do this with me right now. And if you can't, I can completely understand. And I always try to be, you know what, if you can do it, that's great. And if not, then I could totally understand. I mean, this is something that a lot of people do need to think about. But I will write you something. I'll give you an incentive to close within a week, and I'll give you an incentive to close today. And I shut up and I said, let me go build that. And I have them sit down somewhere, or bring them a cup of water. We actually do need to grab some water for the showrooms. So I do that. But after that, now I'm in position to close. And I explain, I say, and by the way, let me tell you this. We order your bed, and we work on your schedule. We order the bed. The sooner that we order it, the sooner that you can have it. That puts you in a position where if you want the bed sooner, it's yours. If you want the bed later, then we'll wait. Not a problem. It takes us 3 months to order it. If you're in your house in 8 weeks, hey, that's great. We call you in a month after that. If it takes you an extra 3, 4 months, 5 months to move in, that's totally fine. We'll hold the bed for you. Either way, our goal is to earn, and I tell people, my responsibility to my company is to earn your business however way possible. If we need to hold it, we'll do it. And then I'll say, so let me make you a quote, right? So now they know there's no reason they can't order. I can't tell you how much business we lose because of stuff that is not communicated from the salesperson to the person. Now they know they can buy today and it's not going to hurt them. And the other thing too I tell people is, reality is there's 2 reasons that people have said, yeah, we'll buy overall, but not today. 1 is the money. 2 is what I just mentioned. Well, if it's the money, if the issue is the money, then number 1, prices will be more next year because of wood costs and things like that. And then number 2, I'm authorized to give you a huge deal today to earn your business today because it's inconvenient for you to make that decision. It's an inconvenience for you, right? I assume. Or to offer to earn your business soon. That's an inconvenience. So, what I can do for you, and then I close, I give them, I build them a quote and I close them, but I talk about all that in close. So, I address the issue of buying now versus buying later, give them a reason to buy today, and I'll give them 5. I'll say, hey, listen, and we also could sell this floor model, and if it's a floor model, that's even better, because I could take 20% off. And also, if it's a floor model, and I don't even say 20%, I sometimes say 30, 40%. And they say, wow, oh really? But since I've already inflated the price 10 to 20%, you feel me? I inflate the price 10 to 20% on all of the models that I'm selling, right? If I can do that, then that 10 to 20% is the real discount, and the other 10 to 20% is imaginary. So this floor model, I can give you a phenomenal deal that I can't give you on anything else. If you buy it today, it's ready for you by Christmas. If you don't want to pay for it right away, you can wait to pay for it. With Synchrony, you don't pay a dime until the bed is installed. And by the way, if you're moving into your house in 3 months or 4 months from now, then that's great. Now you don't have to pay for anything until it's installed. Best part about it is that if you ordered in 4 months, now you have to wait another 12 months, pay more, and not get the finance promo that you want. I have a 60-month finance promo until the end of the year. And I tell people for this exact reason, because if you're willing to work with us, we are willing to work with you. And if you're willing to work with us, we're willing to work with you. A lot of people don't buy it during the holidays. Because during the holidays, people love making excuses. Oh, it's a bad time of year. Oh, I'll buy next year. Oh, I got Christmas. Oh, you know what? If the bed's not going to be by Christmas, then forget it. I wanted it for Christmas, so I was coming in, and that's what I thought I could get it by Christmas, and I can't. I'm going to buy it next year. All the excuses. And during the holidays, what you're going to find, sales do not drop during the holidays, but close percentage does. During the holidays, we have people coming in like that. Very busy. Everybody's shopping. Everybody's coming in. Close percentage goes down. Our sales stay about the same, maybe a little more. It's fine. It's understandable. But this is stuff we deal with. So that's how I deal with it. All right, so now I get into close. And I'll get my paper and I'll have everybody sit down. I always sit when I close because it's non-threatening. And this is just a habit of mine, not saying you got to do it. But if I'm standing over you, then that's more threatening. Especially if they're sitting down and I'm standing, then it's like, oh my God, right? This guy's just talking over me, right? And I am a large person and I'm a man, so I try to do that, to be, to not intimidate people. But regardless, that's what to do. So, we get through close, and then we finally get to price and terms. And then I tell people, I'll say, all right, so let me give you an idea of my responsibility to my company. You know, my job is obviously to put this, and I'll say the wall bed because they've already agreed if they were to do this, they'd go with the Dublin. Or if you say, and that's why I say, let me build you a quote on the Dublin, or whatever the bed is. So they've agreed they're going to do the Dublin, and they've picked the color. If they haven't, it doesn't really matter. I send people home with tier sheets and color sheets and stuff all the time, but that's only when they buy. So then they say, well, they'll say, okay, so we're going with the Dublin, right? And this is how you close. So I say, so let me give you an idea, and this is after they've already agreed on everything, they've agreed to buy the Dublin, they've agreed on the color, they've agreed that it fits, they've agreed that it's within their budget, give or take. They've agreed that it's, they should do it now and not later, or at least they've thought about doing it now. So now you have a shot at closing. If you don't do all of those things, you have no shot at closing. As far as if you can do all those things, then you just have to push and be persistent and get the order. So then I'll say, all right, so we talked about the Dublin, right? Okay, and we're going to do it in the white finish, right? And then you say, and this is close. Before close, you say, let me give you an idea of my responsibility to my company. Or I've already said this earlier, but let me give you an idea of responsibility to Wall Beds and More. My job is to make you a customer. I want to make you a customer. I'm authorized to do everything in my power to earn your work and keep our installer busy. Right now, Baldo, he's our installer. He does this. He's got a beautiful family. He's got 7 kids and a wife. He's got to feed his kids. We got to keep him. In order to keep him, we have to have a strong backlog of orders. I have to have orders. So, I am willing to sacrifice dollar profit for work. Historically, what we've done, and I tell people this, I say historically what we have done is we have taken, I'm a little tired right now, I need to get my caffeine, but historically what we've done is we have charged everybody the same price whether they buy on the first visit or whether they buy on the 5th visit. This is simply unfair. This is unfair because of the amount of cost it takes to make phone calls and to take up time that allows us to earn business. And every time we reschedule an appointment or have to make another appointment, I mean, it just takes up time. And I just say, you know what, and it just takes up time that I could use to earn business. And it's kind of like rolling a die. If I roll a die 6 times, one time it's going to land on the number 1. Well, if it lands on the number 1 and I lose a deal because of it, then we lose money. See, that's a justify to buy today. That's just saying this is a real discount. This isn't just something I made up and pulled out of my butt. So I'm going to offer you our first visit bonus. Our first visit bonus. If you want to take advantage of it, that's great. If not, that's totally fine too as well. But for the price that I'm offering today, I cannot offer it to you next week or the week after, and don't ask me to because I can't and I won't. And I tell people, I will not offer you this price tomorrow. And I tell people, I say, because this is what our boss authorizes, or this is what the factory authorizes, or whatever, I cannot offer you this bonus tomorrow because I can't and I won't. And here's the price, and you can tell me yes, or you can tell me no. And either one is a perfectly acceptable answer. But don't tell me to give you this price tomorrow because I can't and I won't. I don't say it, again, you have to read your customers. You have to figure out what people want. Do they want someone who's going to be that assertive? Do they want someone who's going to be a little more gentle with them? You have to just feel out your customers. But that's the message that you need to send. This price is for today. It's not for you to go home and play with yourself. Okay, so this price is for today. And if you want to go home and do whatever, just stare at the sun for a while and then come back, that's fine. But that's just the price is for today. And so I always make it clear to the person that, you know what, if you take advantage of it, that's great. And if not, that's totally fine. But I mean, this is for right now. So I get in the close. And I'll tell someone, we have, normally this bed costs $4,150, or I'll make up a number that stands rent. Okay, $4,150 or $42.99. Insulation is $350, and then I add the tax. And then I say, what I'm willing to do for you right now is I'm willing to throw in, and if you talked about mattresses, I would say I'm willing to throw in a mattress and take $200 off, bring it down to $38.99, throw in the mattress, or I can bring it down to $36.99. Which would you prefer? Or I would just say, if you can make a decision today, I can do this for $36.21. Now, you can never sell something to somebody for above price. Eric and Kathy will not allow that. You can never actually sell it for above price. But what you can do is inflate and then deflate the price down to regular price. I recommend you pick a number that's very abstract, so that there's no ambiguity about whether or not it's a correct number for you. So I can bring it down to, I can bring it to $36.21 and 45 cents. If you can make a decision today. A lot of times, the person will say, well, you know what, can you take another $100 off? Sure. No, you don't say sure, but you say, let me call my boss. Let me talk to my boss. Let me see. Let me call my boss. No matter what they say, let me call. Even if you know you can do it, let me call my boss. And then you say, oh, wow, how's the weather going, or whatever. Right? So, call the boss, no matter what percentage it is, get the deal today. And get them to understand that your goal is to get them the wall bed right now. Give us your credit card. Right? Give us your credit card. So, that's pretty much what it is. In order to succeed at this job, you need to do those 5 things and work on those 5 things. Close is incredibly important. Close will take you from being someone who sells, $30,000 a month to $60,000 a month. If you're great at selling the product, but you don't know how to close, then you'll be okay. If you don't know how to sell the product and you don't know how to close, then you might not make it in this job. So it really just depends, and it's about how you apply yourself. So anyways, thank you for watching and have a good day.